What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Game Week 24 Wildcard Draft. My name is Ryan from the Football Chat Box, and today we're going to be talking about two potential drafts that you could do, and both of them involve a Game Week 24 wildcard draft with a Game Week 25 bench boost draft option, right? The first draft will have a no Salah draft, and the second draft that we'll do will be a draft with Mohamed Salah in, because at the moment we still haven't got Klopp's press conference and we don't know the status of Mo Salah, so we kind of have to do both situations. We also know now what happens with Chelsea versus Villa, with Villa having that fixture in Game Week 29, and so we're able to plan based on that. Now, before we get into the first draft, which is the no Salah draft, the reasons I would wildcard in Game Week 24 would be if you are not properly set up for 24, for even for 25, the doubles and the blanks, and you want to take advantage of the extra fixtures as well. Now that we know Luton and Bournemouth also double in 28, you want to take advantage of all of that, then you could wildcard in 24. And I think if you wildcard in 24, it's more likely that, or at least it's probably better that you bench boost in 25 more than triple captain. Why? Also, another reason for wildcarding in 24 is if you had the bench boost. If you don't have the bench boost as well, then trying to wildcard in 24 and triple captain in 25 maybe might work. But I think you could potentially, again, it's very team dependent, but you could potentially look to wildcard maybe even 27 after the blank in 26, and also after the FA Cup the round 5 fixtures have happened, and you kind of know what the blank in 29 is going to look like as well. So maybe 27 or even 30, 31 around that time are probably your other wildcard windows. But this mainly, I'm giving a wildcard 24, bench boost 25, mainly because as soon as you wildcard, you're set up for the bench boost in 25, you might as well play it. The cons, obviously, you're going against the triple captaincy chip that week, which most likely will be on Haaland. So that is one thing to kind of consider, but you are hoping that your bench can kind of offset any potential points or even potentially outscore a Haaland triple captaincy. That's the one thing to kind of, that is the double-edged sword of this decision. So keep that in mind, and let's get started with the first draft, which is the no Salah draft. Now, on here, I've got, let's start in goal. I've got Kaminsky, and Areola. The reason I got Kaminsky is because obviously Sheffield United double in 25 and also double in 28. They may potentially have a fixture in 29, but at the moment we still aren't fully sure, because Forest versus Manchester United will determine that game, and I wouldn't put it past Forest to beat United as well. That is a possibility, but just for the moment we've got Kaminsky and Areola, and that's the reason I've got Areola and not another keeper, just because if Luton don't get that game in 29, then you have a keeper in West Ham, because we know West Ham are playing now in 29 because Villa lost to Chelsea. So I've got Areola in there as well. Another reason I've got Areola is because he's a very cheap keeper. You could potentially go for like a Flecken, right, to get two double game week players, two double game week keepers for 25. But I just don't know if that, it completely depends on your budget. Now my sell price on this team is is 103 million is my total sell value. And how do you figure out your sell value? Is you just clear your entire team and see how much money is left in the bank, and that will be your sell value. So I have 103 million to play with. You might have more, you might have less. In my situation, because I don't have as much, I am having Areola. If you have more, you could probably go for a Flecken if you wanted to and get like another double game week goalkeeper for 25. But this is what I'm going with. You could also go with Ederson, although I don't really think he's worth the money. That's just my 2 cents on that side. Those are the goalkeepers. In defense, I've got Doherty, who I think is a very good option for the doubles, both doubles, because they're very attacking fullback. And then I've got also another double game week defender in Region, who has Brentford. In game week 30, they have Burnley, which is a good fixture, and obviously the double is not a great fixture. At best, you're probably expecting 2 to 4 points. If you're lucky, you get a bit extra in an assist. But I wouldn't count. I wouldn't count my eggs before they've hatched in this kind of scenario. To be honest, it's mainly for that double game week 30. I mean, for the blank game week 30 that you kind of have Region in there. You could probably find someone else, to be honest, who will be having a single game week with a better fixture. You could even put Martin Branthwaite in there if you don't have enough money. To be honest, I'm not against it. Branthwaite has Crystal Palace in 25. Everton could keep a clean sheet in that game. So you could also do something like that. I've got Gabriel and Alex Moreno as the other two, and also Van Heck from Brighton, because Van Heck has Sheffield United in 25, which should be a decent fixture for Brighton in terms of keeping a clean sheet. Now, they, at the moment, most likely will not have a fixture in Game Week 29, and obviously no doubles as well that's coming. So it's up to you if you want to go there. For budget reasons is why I've gone for a cheap one. You can go for another Luton defender, but I'll show you why, because you might want to keep one for an attacking Luton player because of the way that they are attacking recently. So that's my defense. Alex Moreno, because obviously they don't blank. He's one of the best fullbacks with great fixtures going forward, and because of no blank in 29, I've picked him. Gabriel, I picked because Arsenal are the best defensive team in the league right now, and there is still a possibility that Arsenal could get a fixture in 29. I wouldn't put it past, because Chelsea have to play Leeds. Wouldn't put it past. Depends on what Chelsea team appears. They could have a fixture in 29. They might not have a fixture in 29. But you can decide that when you get closer to 29. For now, you still want Arsenal defense because they're still pretty good in defense. That's my defenders. Let's go into midfield. I've got KDB, Diego Jota, Saka, Foden, and Ross Barkley as my Luton attacker. Let's talk about Ross Barkley. You could potentially have him there. I've seen a lot of people with Garnacho. Now, I have Garnacho in my own team, but the reason I got Ross Barkley is only because he's like 0.1 difference, if I'm not mistaken. So I think you can probably go in there with Ross Barkley. 4.9, 4.8 doesn't make too much of a difference for you. And you get that Luton midfield player. You could go with a Luton forward in either Carlton Morris or Adebayo. But I just think that the forward spots, there are other forwards that you might want, which we have here. That's why I've gone with Ross Barkley as the midfield option and the midfield enabler. In terms of other midfielders with doubles, Diego Jota has Burnley this week. I've gone for him because of the great fixture this week, and also for a good fixture in 25. Obviously, the blank in 26, you kind of have to keep an eye out for that. And then I've gone with Foden and KDB, as I think they are in the top 3 best City players to own. And if you're not having Salah, you can go and afford for KDB. And I've got Saka, who I think still with the single game week fixtures is getting good, getting into more central areas, and can continue to return points. A lot of people who aren't playing the wildcard as well might be looking to sell Saka. So maybe this is where you kind of can differentiate as well a bit by having him in. That's my midfield. Who else can you get? I mean, if Salah is back, it changes things. Luis Diaz, would I go there? Maybe not. To be honest, any other double game week players. I had Bernardo Silva, but I'm not convinced on him as an option as well. Doku also, we don't know about minutes, so that's another problem. So there aren't that many options in terms of double game week players that you could go for. Apart from these players, maybe some single game week options. If you have Richarlison, you could continue to keep him if you want, if you have value stored on him. But with you wildcarding and him blanking in 26, you probably look to kind of sell, is what I'm thinking. So yeah, that's my midfield. And then up front, I've got Haaland, Watkins, and Darwin. Now, you might have different variations. You could have potentially, instead of having Ross Barkley here, you could have Garnacho, and you could potentially have Adebayo up front. You could have Tony up front. Some of you might still keep Solanke if you have Solanke. That's also not a bad option. But I'm going to try and throw my what is the term? Throw my hat into the ring, or what? I don't know. Like, get a chance on Darwin. It's just 2 game weeks, and you're out after that, right? That's what you're in here for. Darwin, you don't know what you're gonna get. You're just gonna get chaos. That's all you know. So take whatever points you get and you go. That's basically with Darwin. Watkins, because obviously great striker, good fixtures, has a fixture in 29 as well, and a lot of you might have value stored up in him as well. So no reason to kind of get rid. And then obviously Haaland captaincy, who will most likely be the popular triple captain option in game week 25. So that's the team for 24. And when you move it to 25, if you work out in 24, ideally I want you to be able to roll the transfer in 25. And that's because, as you can see, the amount of blanks, you have four blankers, right? 4 blankers. Kaminski doesn't count because you'll have Areola starting, but 4 blankers potentially in 26. So you ideally want to get rid of some of them. So if you can roll the transfer, I would roll the transfer. And this is where you probably look to bench boost as well. Ideally, if you're looking at it in a realistic way, right, your bench boost will most likely be, to be real about it, you'd have something like, yeah, you'd probably have something like this, right? Realistically, you're going to probably start Alex in a normal situation. You'll start Alex Moreno over Reguilon, even though Reguilon has 2 fixtures. Those are hard fixtures. So your bench will most likely be something like Van Hecke against Sheffield United, which isn't bad. Reguilon with 2 fixtures. Saka against Burnley, which isn't too bad. And Areola in goal against Forest, which is also not too bad, right? This is something what you'll have. You have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double game week players in this team, which is pretty good actually. I think non-wildcarders will most likely have anywhere between 5 to 6, most likely. But you have 9 in this situation as your wildcard in game week 24. So you go into, and you'll probably bench boost in this situation because your bench is pretty good and well set up for it. And then you go into game week 26. And what I've done is I've removed Ross Barkley for Neto. You could also remove him for Hwang Hee-chan. It depends on your budget, because Wolves will play Sheffield United. You could also, if you had, let's say, Adebayo, you have the option, you have a couple options in this case. You could keep Adebayo for like on the bench, right? Or you could look to move him out for someone. But I think the reason I have Barkley and moved to Neto is because kind of made sense. I know Barkley has a fixture coming up in game week 28, a double, but we'll get to that. And the reasons why I'm removing Barkley now, I'll explain when we get to 28. So I've gone for Neto. You can go for Hwang. You can go for another midfielder. It depends on how much money you have in the bank. You could go for Garnacho as well. In this situation, they play Fulham. There are a couple different options that you have. But I've gone for Neto in this specific situation, and I've benched Diogo Jota and Darwin. Now, you have two free transfers, and I've only used one. You could potentially use the other to move Darwin to different options you have. And because we didn't have Solanke, because we sold Solanke on this wildcard draft, the reason I haven't moved Darwin just yet, actually, you could potentially do it if you wanted to. You could move Darwin to Solanke in this game itself. It's just that he plays City, so I haven't really done it, but you could actually do it. And you could start Solanke over Reguilon. Because realistically, will Reguilon keep a clean sheet against West Ham? Probably not. So you've used your 2 free transfers, you start Solanke against City, it is what it is. And you kind of move into game week 27. And I've already had Solanke here. I was going to look to bring him in game week 27 instead of game week 26. But I bought him in game week 27. You could also potentially, let's say you kept Ross Barkley. You could have moved Darwin to a Wolves attacker in like Matheus Cunha instead. That's another move that you could have done. And then if you wanted to get Solanke back in, you could have potentially moved Haaland away as well. But I've kept Haaland, and in this specific situation, I've moved Diogo Jota to Heung-min Son. Oh no, I've kept Jota. Who did I move? De Bruyne, yes. I've moved De Bruyne to Heung-min Son because De Bruyne has United and Liverpool and then most likely blanks. So I've gone and got in Son, and that leaves me with money in the bank as well. So that's what I've done with my 1 free transfer here. And then obviously by now, you probably know what's going to happen with the FA Cup results, and you know the blanks in Game Week 29 by the time you get to Game Week 27. And so we go into Game Week 28. We start Kaminsky, Doherty, we had Solanke, and this is where Adebayo's coming. This is why I kind of moved Morris out. Barkley out, because Haaland has Liverpool in this specific situation the next game week. And after that, he blanks. Most likely blanks. Unless magic of the FA Cup, and something goes crazy. But most likely he blanks. And there's a possibility for you to do Carlton Morris or even Adebayo to a Haaland. You could do something like that. Or you could try and avoid the temptation of a double game week player. And instead of going for Adebayo, you go for a Tony. Now he has Arsenal, which isn't great, but he has Burnley in the next game week. So it depends on how you kind of want to navigate this. 3 fixtures versus 2 fixtures. So not the best of fixture for Tony, but it is something that you could probably consider if you wanted to do it or not. So it's up to you. And there's also Foden and there's Jota as well. You could look to get rid of one of them. You could probably actually, Neto has Fulham, so you probably look to start Neto in one of the games. City, this is Liverpool at home, right? I'll probably bench Foden in the Liverpool game. So you could start Neto. And it's up to you. Do you keep Jota? You could also move Jota to a Spurs player if you wanted to for a -4, but I don't know if I would do that for a -4. And then you go into Game Week 29, and I'm not going to talk about Game Week 29 because we don't know what the blanks will be like. But at the present situation in this team, you would have Son playing. Sorry, let's start with goal. You'll have Areola playing, so that's 1. You'll have Moreno playing, that's 2. You'll have Son, 3. You'll have Watkins, 4. You'll have Reguilon, that's 5. That's 5 players. If you get lucky, you potentially have 2 Arsenal, or you potentially have 2 Luton extras. So you'll have about 7 players before Game Week 29. And this is kind of where you decide maybe if you want to take a hit to like a Richarlison, which will take you to 8 players in 28. You'll go to 29, and you'll have to take maybe another hit as well to get to like 10 players. 10 I don't think is too bad. If you're lucky, you maybe get the Chelsea fixtures as well, and then you're like sitting fine. If Chelsea lose to Arsenal, you're sitting in a good position with 2 more Arsenal players. So yeah, there is a few drawbacks. It's still not as easy to navigate to 29, but you could probably do it. So keep that in mind. There are a few drawbacks to it. Don't feel afraid to not play the free hit as well. But ideally, you would try and save your free hit if you can, because you're wildcarding in 24. That's kind of the idea. And use your free hit and triple captaincy for the doubles in 34 and 37. So that's kind of where you'll be. Like, that's the no Salah draft. Let's get in to the Salah draft. Now, Salah draft, very similar. Klopp has come and said Salah is playing. You go and get Salah in your team. Goalkeepers, same. Defense is slightly different. I've gone for Virgil van Dijk because Salah takes a lot of money, and you can't really go for a Darwin Núñez up front. It's not easy unless you have the money to do it. I don't think I have the money. Do I have the money? Oh no, I do have the money. The reason I haven't done it is because it becomes a bit harder to manage the blank Game Week 26 if I'm not mistaken. So I've gone for Alvarez. You could potentially actually go for someone else as well, maybe a Tony if you wanted to. If you had that is a bit hard. I don't have the money for that, but if you had the money, you could. So I've gone Kaminsky, Areola, explaining the same thing. Doherty, Gabriel, Van Hecke, Alex Moreno. That's all the same. The only thing that's changed is I've got Virgil van Dijk in here compared to where in Game Week 24 I had a Reguilon. Maybe you could say Virgil van Dijk is better here in this specific situation. The thing is here you don't have a Virgil van Dijk because of the fact, how much is Virgil actually? 6.3 because of the fact of Darwin. Darwin takes up the space compared to when Alvarez is 6.8 over here. So Virgil van Dijk, because most likely compared to a Trent, he will most likely play to the full 180 minutes in Game Week 25 and good fixture against Burnley as well. Then we got Barkley, and I explained the reason before. Salah, Saka, Foden, Haaland, Watkins, and I've gone for Julian Alvarez because I was like, City are probably the best team. Go triple City if you can. You could go City defender like a Walker over Virgil and use that money then to get Darwin Núñez in here in front if you wanted to, or you could even go and get a Tony as well. But then you only have like, or you probably have two Liverpool if you go like Darwin Núñez and Walker instead. But I haven't gone Walker because I felt like City's chances of keeping a clean sheet are lower than Liverpool's chances of keeping a clean sheet, and there's slightly higher upside from City's attack probably. So I've gone for Alvarez. I still think he'll get good enough minutes over the double and against Everton as well. I still think he will get good enough minutes. And then obviously Garnacho in there. Garnacho and Ross Barkley. The reason being, you can't really afford the luxuries of a Jota in this midfield because Salah takes a lot of money, especially when you have Haaland as well. So that takes a lot of money. 0.8 in the bank, you might have more. You could probably do some luxury moves as well. You might have less, then maybe this might help you, I think. And then obviously we go to Game Week 25. Again, roll the transfer if you can. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double Game Week players. So slightly less than the other one, but it's not a big deal. You got Garnacho, Van Dijk, and Alex Moreno on your bench, which is also not a bad options, and Areola on the bench as well. So it's not a bad bench to play a bench boost, but in this specific situation, you could potentially risk it as well and play the triple captaincy. Because unlike the previous one where in Game Week 25 you had Saka on the bench, this one you have Garnacho on the bench, but here you have Alex Moreno as well. So Alex Moreno plus Garnacho versus Saka plus Van Dijk. That's kind of the situation. And obviously, we started. Who did we start? We started Moreno over Region. So yeah, maybe you bring Moreno on here as well, just to make it fair, right? So you have Moreno on both sides of the bench. It's basically Van Dijk and Saka versus Garnacho. Garnacho, and obviously we have Virgil on this side instead of Region. So there are a few differences in the terms of the bench boost. Up to you if you want to play the bench boost. You could also triple captain in this specific situation. You could triple captain on Haaland, which might be the safer play. You could do a spicy pick and triple captain on Salah as well, potentially. And then obviously go to Game 26. Bench Salah, bench Virgil, bench Doherty. Who did we sell? We sold Ross Barkley for Neto. Same reasons explained before. And we start Alvarez, Foden, Haaland, everyone else. That was the only one transfer we did. And the reason I've benched Salah, and I'll explain it going forward, is when you bring in Salah, you're one of the very few managers who has the advantage of playing Salah against Forest. Now, Foden has been sold for Richarlison in this move, and also we've sold Alvarez for Solanke for the double, ahead of the double, right? Those are the two transfers we did, and we kept Salah. Now, you can sell Salah to get in Heung-min Son. One of the advantages of having a wildcard draft with Salah in it is that you get to keep him in this Forest game, whereas some might have actually sold him. So you could probably have a pretty good captaincy option for this week in 27 if Salah plays. Whereas Haaland will be playing United, which might also still be a good captaincy option, or Solanke against Burnley. And then you go into 28. You have Haaland's gone. You have Adebayo, Watkins, Solanke. You've sold Salah as well. Bought in Heung-min Son. And here you have 3, 4 doublers. Now, as you would have seen, both wildcard drafts, I didn't have any other Bournemouth player. You can still bring in a few Bournemouth players. It's up to you. Like Senesi in defense. He is an option. Who else? I don't know for midfield. Would I go anyone? I don't think so. I think midfield spots are precious. Kluivert maybe, but I think midfield spots are precious and there are other better options. So that's basically why. So 28, we've done a -4 that bought in Heung-min Son and Adebayo, and you lost 2 big hitters in Salah and Haaland. So I don't know if I would go to that extent. Up to you if you want to bring Adebayo or not. But still keep Haaland. Depends on how you want to play it. And obviously, we go into Game Week 29. I'll leave it to you guys, but this one is slightly better setup. You got Son, you got Richarlison. That's 2 players there. Watkins 3, Areola 4, Moreno 5. You get lucky with Arsenal, they get 6 and 7. And if you get lucky with Luton, you have 8 and 9 as well. So you could potentially have 9 players well set up for Game Week 29. Just have to take a hit. Maybe you could do Solanke if they don't have a fixture to a 20 because you have a lot of money. You can do to a 20. And you could also move, if Garnacho doesn't have a fixture, to any midfield option you want you could move Garnacho to a Madison. That's an option. You have triple Spurs midfield. You could also move Virgil to, depends on who plays. Maybe Pedro Porro if you didn't want to move for Madison. So yeah, those are a couple options. Let me know what you think. Obviously, there are various variations that you can go with in terms of the wildcard draft, especially if you've already used a bench boost. Then I don't know if you would wildcard, but let me know what your thoughts are both with the Salah draft over here and the non-Salah draft over here. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all for the deadline stream on Saturday. Peace out, everyone.